It's incredible how much Kawhi Leonard fit the San Antonio Spurs ethos. A reclusive team-first superstar who rarely showed emotions and only cared about hooping. San Antonio is a model franchise that's often been called bland, boring, or as I like to say, sauceless. But whatever you want to call them, their success on the court has spoken volumes. On paper, Kawhi and the Spurs were a match made in heaven who appeared to be locked in with each other until the end of time. Except, the relationship that seemed to be unbreakable from the outside ultimately deteriorated behind the scenes, resulting in a messy divorce. Kawhi played his last meaningful minutes as a Spur against the Golden State Warriors during the 2017 Western Conference Finals. The events that unfolded afterward altered not only the course of a franchise, but the entire NBA. I hope you're hungry, because what followed that was a giant serving of beef. On May 11th, 2017, the Spurs showed no signs of slowing down as a franchise. After handing out an absolute ass-whooping to the Houston Rockets in Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals, the Spurs were riding the high of making their 5th conference finals appearance in 10 seasons. Kawhi was the head honcho for this team since Tim Duncan retired in 2016, and as the new leader, he led San Antonio through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs to set up a showdown with the mighty Golden State Warriors. The Spurs, unfortunately, entered the series banged up. Star point guard Tony Parker suffered a season-ending quad injury in the semifinals, and Kawhi tweaked his ankle in that same series, even missing the clinching game. But despite the injuries, journalists agreed the Spurs had some chance of knocking off the heavily favored Warriors, mainly thanks to Kawhi. And when Game 1 tipped off, Kawhi came out cooking. He knocked down the night's first basket with a smooth pull-up. Later in the quarter, after snagging a wild pass from Steph Curry, Kawhi drove the lane and yammed with ease. His ankle appeared to be holding up just fine. Over the next 2 quarters, Kawhi and the Spurs were at the Warriors' neck, running up the score on their home floor. Kawhi hit a corner 3 over the outstretched arms of Kevin Durant, putting San Antonio up 18 with a little under 10 to play in the third. But when Kawhi tried to make his way up the court, he rolled his already injured ankle and immediately hit the floor in pain. Kawhi sat on the bench for a few minutes, re-entered the game, trying to extend the Spurs' commanding lead, and then went down again. This time, after twisting his ankle under the foot of Warriors center Zaza Pachulia. After a sensational performance, Kawhi wouldn't return to the game or the series, and following his exit with a little under 8 minutes to play in the third, the Warriors immediately went on an 18-0 run over the next 3.5 minutes, en route to wiping out San Antonio's 23-point lead to win Game 1, the first of a 4-game sweep. As easy as the Warriors made it look, for nearly 3 quarters, Kawhi and the Spurs had the Warriors in a chokehold, and were on the verge of snatching a pivotal Game 1, which could have drastically altered the final outcome. Looking ahead to next season, it felt safe to assume that with a healthy Kawhi, San Antonio would be right back in the mix. The thing about assumptions, though, you kinda make an ass out of yourself, because not a single soul could have predicted what transpired during the 2017-18 season. But to truly appreciate the tenderness of this beef, you have to understand that it's arguably the most improbable feud that occurred in NBA history. The San Antonio Spurs are undoubtedly one of the best operated professional sports franchises. Over the span of nearly 20 years, San Antonio set the standard for success on the court and exemplified a unique class off of it, rarely ever being in the spotlight for anything other than winning. Throughout that time frame, under head coach Greg Popovich and general manager R.C. Buford, the Spurs built a lengthy history of sustaining solid relationships with their star players. In 2000, Duncan explored free agency, nearly becoming a member of the Orlando Magic, but Pop and veteran center David Robinson convinced him to stay, and the rest is history. Even when the rare drama occurred, the Spurs handled everything in-house. In 2010, the franchise experienced a scandal involving teammates Tony Parker and Brent Barry, where Parker got caught sexting Barry's wife, although Parker was married to actress Eva Longoria. Parker's infidelity caused problems throughout the organization, leading the Spurs to almost trade him. But after handling the issue internally, San Antonio kept it pushing with Parker and continued their winning ways as if nothing happened. This isn't to make light of a serious situation because Parker for sure acted like an asshole, but the franchise was able to quickly squash a juicy topic before it had the opportunity to spiral out of control. That drama preceded the 2011 NBA draft, which among its class included the extremely conflict-free Leonard. After 2 seasons at San Diego State University, Kawhi entered the 2011 draft as a potential top 10 pick. At SDSU, Kawhi excelled defensively using his terrific length and quickness to terrorize opponents while playing every possession like it was his last. Offensively though, Kawhi had a streaky jumper and scouts feared that he didn't have any aspect of his game that allowed him to score consistently. Despite the lack of a fully developed offensive bag, scouts saw the potential in Kawhi's game and projected he could range anywhere from a great role player to a versatile star, drawing comparisons to the likes of Gerald Wallace and Sean Marion. San Antonio had the 29th pick in the draft, and the team never traded up, typically finding immense value in late-round picks. The odds of Kawhi falling to the Spurs seemed like a long shot, but San Antonio took a gamble and did something extremely unusual for them. As Kawhi unexpectedly fell down the board, the Spurs swung a deal with the Indiana Pacers and drafted Kawhi 15th overall, making him the highest selected Spurs player since Timmy in 1997. The Spurs sent off promising point guard George Hill in the trade, who the team had developed and proved to be a reliable floor general while Parker sat. But on the surface, by making such a rare draft day trade, it appeared the Spurs were fully confident in Kawhi's abilities. Although Pop didn't necessarily remember it that way. The front office acted hesitant in trading Hill, and Pop was scared shitless because he agreed with nearly every criticism that scouts had of Kawhi's skill set. It also didn't calm San Antonio's fears that the team hardly knew anything about Kawhi personally. It wasn't a lack of effort in getting to know him. Kawhi was just an introvert who hardly ever talked. The franchise had to make sense of his character based on stories like Kawhi breaking his own lamps to early morning workout sessions. So they at least knew the dude was a hard worker, and ultimately, Kawhi's relentless dedication to working on his game drove him to the Spurs by pure happenstance. During the NBA Draft Combine, most top prospects are encouraged not to participate in drills, but that's simply not in Kawhi's nature. After hanging out and watching other players put their talent on display, Kawhi decided enough was enough and got some shots up himself. After 10 minutes of work, Kawhi got tossed from the court, but that small window of time was enough to convince Spurs shooting coach Chip England that the team needed to have him. England had gained the reputation as the shot doctor around the league and noted Kawhi had good form, but his mechanics weren't sharp. He worked on altering Leonard's release point, hoping to reconstruct his jump shot. While England believed Kawhi could dramatically improve his offensive game with some retooling, Pop thought Kawhi had the potential to be a top defender in the league and pushed him to be Bruce Bowen times 10. It's a tough ask to emulate the defensive output of the former Spurs icon, but Kawhi quickly proved to be among the NBA's elite and met Pop's challenge by earning back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year honors in 2015 and 2016. Pop saw Kawhi's potential early on and believed after his rookie season he could one day become the face of the franchise. While Kawhi had shown signs of possibly beating his coach's prophecy, he didn't view himself in the same light. After a stellar defensive performance during the 2013 NBA Finals, Kawhi was reminded of his coach's praise, but he only saw himself as a role player. It was a typical Spursian response, sacrificing self-glory for team success, but Kawhi understood the team belonged to the Big Three and he played off of them. By 2015, though, that was no longer the case. Beyond being a matchup nightmare for anyone going at him, over the years, Kawhi slowly but surely developed into the offensive threat that England believed he could be. Kawhi's once inconsistent jumper was no longer a weakness, as he saw immense improvement in his shooting percentages, especially from three. He became a true focal point of the offense, with Pop transferring plays to Kawhi that had long been saved for Manu. More importantly, with a well-rounded offensive arsenal, Kawhi had the ability to absorb the duties and take pressure off the Spurs' mighty trio, extending the success of the franchise. Something he proved on the grandest stage during the 2014 NBA Finals, leading the team in scoring over the last 3 games, earning him Finals MVP. Kawhi helped rejuvenate the Spurs, and Buford applauded him for changing the course of the organization as they continued their path towards dynasty status. He didn't play for recognition and instead focused on being the best player he could possibly be, striving to someday rack up more rings than Timmy. More than Kawhi's obvious talent, his approach to the game fully matched the org's mindset. And as the Big Three started to age, San Antonio inked Kawhi to a 5-year max contract in 2015, signaling he would usher in the new era of San Antonio basketball. If there were ever to be an heir to take over Timmy's throne, Kawhi had proven to be the perfect candidate, and by the spring of 2017 had all but cemented his place. Except, it's quite difficult to be a leader of a team when you're hardly with them. During the spring of 2017, San Antonio saw their hopes of competing for a 6th NBA title disappear when Kawhi injured his ankle against the Warriors. But heading into the 2017-18 season, Kawhi's ankle became the least of the franchise's concerns. Like most teams, San Antonio held an intra-squad scrimmage before the start of the preseason, and to the surprise of everyone in attendance, Kawhi wasn't present. The team announced Kawhi had been continuing a rehab program, but for something other than the injury we knew about. It was shocking news, but Pop calmed the fears of San Antonio fans and said the issue had been something that lingered from last year and wasn't connected to his ankle injury. Pop didn't want to put a timetable on Kawhi's return, but said there was a good chance he would miss preseason action. Missed preseason games eventually developed into Kawhi essentially being a no-show all season, causing teammates to question his dedication, including veteran leaders Ginobili and Parker. Manu grew tired of fielding questions regarding Kawhi's status about when he would ever rejoin the team. Parker was confused as to why Kawhi refused to suit up during the season, even though he suffered a similar injury to Kawhi, one that Parker thought was 100 times worse. If you recall, during the Spurs' 2017 postseason run, Parker suffered a serious quad injury that many believe could have potentially ended his career. But after months of rehabbing during the offseason, TP miraculously suited up for the Spurs in November 2017, 8 games before Kawhi clocked his first minutes of the season. Watching Parker compete after last being seen on the court in excruciating pain during the 2017 playoffs had to be a relief for Spurs fans, but it also brought into question Kawhi's odd timetable to return from the same injury. How Kawhi's quad issue went from a lingering injury from the previous season to him barely playing during the 2017-18 season is a convoluted story. 2 weeks after Pop said Kawhi would miss preseason games, San Antonio confirmed he would miss the season opener as well. Pop still wouldn't put a timetable on his return, but confirmed Kawhi had been rehabbing, and when he's ready, he'll be ready. Pop couldn't call it. So as you can imagine, it certainly didn't calm the nerves of Spurs fans when Kawhi got spotted a week later, struggling to board the plane for the team's first road trip of the season. Seeing a limping Leonard sparked a wave of confusion across the league, and even Pop himself was bewildered. In his 40 years of coaching, Pop said he'd never seen an issue like Kawhi's quad injury. For Pop, the injury was especially strange, seeing how Kawhi and Parker had the same injury, with Parker's being far worse. Pop's comments were a bit odd, seeing how he's usually extremely direct with the media, but he did reassure journalists that Kawhi would be back sooner rather than later when asked if there was a light at the end of the tunnel. A comment that Pop immediately walked back as soon as the words left his lips. In December 2017, though, after missing 27 games, Kawhi ended any confusion when he suited up for the first time. And he looked decent. He was obviously playing himself into shape, but after a month of play where he sat in back-to-back games, Kawhi put up solid numbers in a 9-game stretch that at least inspired confidence he could return to his dominant self when fully healthy. Except, that didn't appear to be anytime soon. After a blowout win against the Denver Nuggets in January 2018, where Kawhi nearly dropped a double-dub, San Antonio ruled him out indefinitely due to recurring trouble with his quad. Buford thought Kawhi had made great progress and believed the best approach would be for him to continue rehabbing. Pop voiced his concerns that the injury hadn't responded the way the team wanted, but understood Kawhi had been working hard to get back, and although he didn't re-injure the quad, sitting him for a while would be the right move health-wise. Pop didn't think it would end Kawhi's season, but shutting him down was a collaborative effort with input from Kawhi himself. From my understanding, a collaborative effort is when two or more parties come together in order to successfully achieve a goal, but it appeared that Kawhi and the Spurs were nowhere near being on the same page. A few days after being ruled out indefinitely, ESPN, seemingly out of nowhere, reported there had been a growing rift between Kawhi and the Spurs over the handling of his quad injury. It's really no surprise a player of Leonard's caliber would be frustrated by an injury derailing his season, but it was absolutely stunning to hear the Spurs were involved in any type of team feud. San Antonio and Kawhi's camp denied the report, with both sides agreeing they'd been locked in on finding the best solution for everyone involved. Given the Spurs' track record, given the little we knew about Kawhi, even the fact Kawhi's uncle was coming out to speak for him, it was easy to believe them all. No issue here. But over time, we clearly learned that was an attempt to save face. Otherwise, this would have never been a possibility. And just a little bit of drama went down to get us to that point. Yo, thanks for watching, but we ain't done just yet. We got plenty of more beef to come. So don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coming back.